Hello and welcome everyone. Joining me now, Professor Robert Sbringborg. Robert is a research fellow at the Italian Institute of International Affairs and adjunct professor at Simon Fraser University. Formerly, he was a professor of national security affairs at the Naval Postgraduate School and a program manager for the Middle East for the Center for Civil Military Relations. He also served as a director of the London Middle East Institute and the American Research Center in Egypt. His most recent books are Egypt 2018 and Political Economics of the Middle East and North Africa 2020, both published by Polity Press. He is an editor-in-chief of the Handbook of Contemporary Egypt, published by Routledge in 2021. Welcome to the show, Robert, and thank you very much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
So we met at this show last year. How do you describe the situation in Egypt today? Is it better or worse?
It's worse. The crisis that is manifested in the decline of the value of the Egyptian pound, which momentarily reached 32 to the dollar last week, is symbolic of the economic failure of the government and its complete dependence on external support. The bottom of 32 to the dollar was quickly brought back to 30 to the dollar by virtue of interventions from the Gulf, of them buying up with their dollars Egyptian pounds securities. And so Egypt has become completely dependent on external support, not only to prop up its currency, but for its basic imports. So this situation is clearly worse than it was a year ago. And there's nothing on the horizon that suggests this is going to dramatically improve, at least in the foreseeable future.
Day, Jan 11, 2023, was a dramatic day in Egypt, Robert. In only 5 hours, as you said, Egyptian pound collapsed against the dollar, which hit a record, reaching 32 pounds before it stayed at 29 pounds by the end of the day. So, in your opinion, was it a complete devaluation or controlled by the Egyptian central bank?
Well, I think they were testing the water, that is the central bank, to see where it would go if they took hands off. And the pent-up demand for dollars was such that it clearly overshot what they had hoped it would be. And they then had to turn to their Gulf supporters to quickly provide the dollars, because they did not have sufficient, to stem the tide, which they did do. So they now know that absent rapid interventions from abroad, the pressure on the pound will continue. So the betting seems to be that within a short period of time, the pound will be back to some 35 to the dollar. And no one knows what the further downsides might be. They're hoping that by virtue of the savings certificates that they've been selling this month, attracting 25% interest on deposits in Egyptian pounds, will provide a breathing space for them. It will suck the pounds out of the market and then reduce demand and make it possible for the pound to recover slightly against the dollar and to also reduce inflation. So they're hoping, but if we have Lebanon as example, which was in exactly these circumstances going back about 2 to 3 years now, the end of the story wasn't good. The Lebanese pound went from 1,502 to the dollar to 35,000 to the dollar. And so if Lebanon is an indicator of the possible fate for Egypt, it's definitely not good.